Multiple studies and thousands of real-world seat checks have found that as many as 80 to 90% of car seats are used incorrectly. That's not a typo. Up to 9 out of 10 kids are riding around in a seat that isn't actually protecting them the way it should. That's like pulling on a parachute and forgetting to tighten the straps. It's not going to end well. And here's the kicker. Car crashes send more kids to the hospital than almost anything else. You can drop $700 on the nicest car seat on the market, but if you install it wrong, might as well be a booster seat made out of spaghetti. So I sat down with Britney, a certified child passenger safety technician, a BabyArk advocate, and a mom of 2 to cut through the confusion. We asked the real questions: seatbelt or latch, middle or side seat, and how tight is tight enough? Stuff that matters way more than cup holders and fabric swatches. Let's get into it. All right, I am thrilled to be joined today by Britney. Britney is a child passenger safety technician, a mom of 2, and correct me if I'm wrong, BabyArk CPST.
Yep, the BabyArk CPST advocate.
Excellent. So what do you typically do in your capacity for them?
It's a great question. I feel like most people outside of the car seat safety industry don't really know what an advocate is. But basically, what I do is I liaise between the brand themselves and caregivers and other CPSTs out in the field helping caregivers to get that feedback from what we're seeing in the field and help caregivers make sure that they're using the car seats correctly. I help write the manuals. I help develop new products and make sure that our messaging stays on point.
Awesome. So you are the exact correct person to be talking to about child car seat safety. Excellent. We are happy to have you, Britney. Thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here.
As I've told you, Fathercraft, our audience is primarily new dads who are exploring the world of baby tech, gear, and car seat is a really important one. So I'm very happy that we're talking about this today. The National Highway Traffic Safety Association has an eye-opening stat. As high as 80 to 90% of car seats are installed or used incorrectly. When you hear that, what do you think is actually going wrong in the majority of those cases?
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, is what we call them in the biz. More recently, we now have the National Digital Check Form, which is the NDCF. It's very likely that the misuse number is higher, but right now, our national average for misuse is 70%. So at least 70% of car seats and boosters are being misused in some way. So what's happening is, I think there's just a lack of car seat education out there generally. Car seats, they're not always as intuitive to use as you'd hope they would be. The biggest misuses truly are that everything is just too loose. Whether that's the harness, your installation, the top tether, everything is just too loose from the data that we have. So we just got to snug it all up.
Yes, great advice. Get it all a little bit tighter. What is the number one piece of advice that you would give brand new parents?
Get a car seat check from a CPST. That is my first piece of advice, my best piece of advice. So I work locally in my community. Where I do my seat checks is at a hospital. And so we have a volunteer group of folks that do seat checks up there. And so we see a lot of expectant parents and caregivers and a lot of parents and caregivers with new babies. And so we're always really excited to see them because they come in and they don't know anything, that's why they're here. We love that. And nobody is here to be like, oh, I can't believe you didn't know this. We're just excited that they're there. And that look of relaxation on their faces when you finally explain something to them and they get it and they're like, oh, now I understand like how this is going to help keep my baby safe. And now I know how to install my car seat. Now I know how to use it correctly. So you can see that anxiety notched down. And that's what we really want.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, go see a currently certified CPST. You can typically find one that's local to you. If there's nobody that's local to you, we can also do seat checks virtually. So we're always happy to see folks virtually and help you make sure you're installing your car seat correctly. So you're all for hands-on education and making sure that folks know how to use their car seat correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it isn't all that intuitive, as you point out. My brother, Paul, who is one of the co-founders of Fathercraft, has a story where he had a car seat for his first daughter. He read the manual, he installed it. He was sure that it was good. He was feeling good about it. He had a CPST check it at the hospital, and he had done it totally wrong. So yes, it is critically important to get that car seat check done. I know you mentioned we can do them virtually now. That's fantastic. Will a lot of hospitals offer that? If you're delivering at that hospital, will they have a CPST there typically that can do that?
Most of the time, that is not true. If you're just there having an average delivery and then you have to go home with your baby, typically what they have to do legally is make sure that you have a safe way to get your baby home. So if you're driving, that means a car seat, right? But they will not check to make sure it's installed correctly. They won't help you harness your baby. And that's usually because the nurses, the mother baby nurses, are not CPSTs themselves, and that's a liability to the hospital. So typically there is not somebody on staff that comes around. Now in some hospitals there are, and you can always ask ahead, ask at your hospital, see if that's something they provide, but it's not a given. And even if it were, I would not leave that education to right after you've had a baby. I have 2 kids, I've delivered twice, and I know that I am not, at least me, in this right frame of mind to be receiving more education right after I had a baby. We usually advise caregivers to come to us about 4 weeks before baby arrives, just so they can make sure the car seat's installed correctly. It's really unusual, but if there's an incompatibility between your car seat and your vehicle, that gives you enough time to get another one, right? And that way you're ready to go just in case baby decides to arrive early, which we know sometimes they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, I remember when my son was born, I didn't even know what day it was. So your point is very well taken about this is something to do well in advance. 4 weeks ahead of time is a great time to get everything car seat related nailed down. So Britney, for parents who might not know, can you tell us a little bit about what a convertible car seat is, when you should move to one from an infant car seat?
A convertible car seat is a car seat that converts from rear facing to forward facing. They have higher weight limits than your infant car seat. As far as when you want to make that switch, it's really personal to every family, every caregiver and their child. Generally speaking, if you've started with an infant car seat, one of those infant bucket seats with the handles, a lot of folks find that they're wanting to make that switch right around when baby starts being able to crawl and up unassisted, because that way they're not as floppy. It's easier to get them in and out of the car seat on their own. They're starting to get a little bit heavier. And so maybe carrying it around on your arm is not as comfortable or easy as it used to be. And that's a perfectly reasonable time to want to switch to a convertible seat. You're like, I don't really want to carry this around anymore. My arm's going to fall off. Let's switch to the convertible. And that's totally fine. You don't need to max out your infant car seat. You certainly can if you want to, but you don't need to. A lot of folks will typically use that infant seat from 8 to 10 months and then switch to a rear-facing convertible car seat.
Makes total sense. And when parents make that switch, what are some of the common mistakes that you see them make?
I see a lot of the same misuses that I see across all car seats. The harness is too loose. The installation is too loose. The chest clip is too low. Oftentimes the harness straps will be too high, and those are like the really common errors we'll see.
So when I am putting Hank into a car seat, I'm trying to put that clip like about here, pretty high on his chest, but that I assume is a pretty good position. And then what I typically try to do is like the 2-finger test. Can I slide 2 fingers underneath that harness and just barely get them in? I want that to be really snug, but I want him to be able to breathe a little bit as well. Is that kind of how you would think about it, or is there a better approach?
What we recommend is a couple of things. So like you said, you want to make sure that chest clip is right at armpit level, okay? Mm-hmm. I've heard people say all different kinds of things, but what we want is armpit level. I usually do something called the tickle test. So I take my fingers and I see if I can put them into baby's armpits or your kid's armpits. And then if I can hit that chest clip with my thumbs in their arm, like when my fingers are in their armpits, then it's generally at the right height, right? And then as far as making sure that it's tight enough, we have something called the pinch test. Instead of sticking fingers here, you harness them like you normally would, right? And then you pinch, let me see if I can do this so that you can see, like this, up and down on the harness. If you can pinch a fold in the webbing like this, it's too loose. So you pull that harness adjustment tail until it falls out of your fingers, okay? If you're going like this and you can't pinch anything up and down like this, then it's just tight enough, okay? And the next question that I typically get from people is, I want to make sure that it's not too tight, which I totally get it, understood. So if you're that kind of person that's, I'm not sure, then harness it up and snug it up most of the way there. And then go ahead and pinch that fold in the harness. Pull that harness adjuster tail there until that fold just falls out of your fingers. And then you'll know it's just tight enough without being too tight.
And then with the straps on the shoulders, we want that directly behind, like on the clavicle is where that should fall. Or educate me here a little bit on where we want the back straps.
For harnesses, whenever a child is rear facing in a car seat, and that's an infant seat or they're convertible, multi-mode, all in one, what have you. So you want the harness straps to be coming out of that car seat shell either at or just below their shoulders. So kind of like a little backpack strap that curves below. Now you don't want it to be coming out way down below their shoulders because that's not comfortable, but you want it to be either at or just below. And you can check your manual because some manuals will say we need it to be coming out below their shoulders and some will say at or below. So double check your manual always, but that's what you want. What you don't want is for the harness straps to be coming out like this above their shoulders. So you want to make sure it's below so it holds them down and in their car seat.
Got it. Yep. Makes total sense. This is really helpful. Thank you for demonstrating. Yeah, no, it works perfectly. I like it. Awesome. Okay, so we've been talking a little bit about the installation here. Is there like a quick checklist that you'll do every time as a parent when you put your kid in?
So every time I harness in my kids, I always check to make sure that the harness is nice and flat and tight around their hips, that chest clip is at armpit level, and that I can't pinch any of the harness webbing between my fingers. I always do those 3 things. And while I'm doing those things, I'm looking at other stuff on the car seat, right? So while they're climbing into their seat, I might just do a little handshake test on the car seat at the belt path to make sure that it's not moving more than an inch. Because even if you had it installed tightly before, using your car seat, metals and plastics expand and contract in the heat and the cold, so it can loosen up over time. I'm checking to make sure that they still have an inch of space above their head, if that's a requirement on their rear-facing mode of their car seat. Once you're a parent, you get into those little routines of checking things, like you're putting your kids' clothes in the morning, you're like, oh, these pants are getting a little bit short, it's almost time to change up to the next size.
Yep.
So just when you're doing stuff like that, you're also thinking about that kind of stuff with car seats, just monitoring it. You don't have to get out a 20-point checklist every time you harness your kids, but you're just noticing that because you're a parent, you're a caregiver now, you're watching for those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So seatbelt versus latch. How should parents think about this and which one to use when?
So again, this is another really common question, so great that you asked it here. Latch was invented to help make car seats easier to install. Latch has weight limits, and most seats, especially convertible car seats, have a weight limit on when you must stop using the latch lower anchors and you have to switch to using the vehicle seatbelt to install. That's definitely something to take into consideration when you're installing. Usually, if I have a family that's coming to me and they're wanting to install their convertible car seat, we will look at that seatbelt installation first, just because if we install it with the seatbelt, they won't have to worry about remembering what the lower anchor weight limit is and then switching it. Maybe they have to come back to me and make another appointment so they can change that installation. So typically I'll advise folks to, if you're doing your convertible car seat, check out that seatbelt installation. Now, if you're talking about an infant car seat, those don't have latch lower anchor weight limits because the baby and the car seat together with the maximum weights will never reach that latch anchor weight limit. But for those convertible car seats, it's definitely something to consider. Now, that being said, I do want to say that when you're using them correctly, they will both install the car seat safely, right? Whether it's the seatbelt or the lower anchors, as long as you're following all of the requirements and the weight limits. So it's not as if latch is safer and the vehicle seatbelt is like a second thing that we only do if we have to. That's not the case. When you're using them correctly and you're getting a good installation, either one can be used safely.
Love to hear that. Makes total sense. And that is one of the innovations of BabyArk specifically, right? Is that you can use the latch system as well as the vehicle belt path when installing the base.
We are one of only 3 car seats currently on the US market that allows the use of both the lower anchors and the vehicle seatbelt together. And all 3 of those car seats that allow that have what's called rigid lower anchors. So instead of the lower anchors that are on the flexible, like seatbelt webbing kind of material, it's the lower anchors are attached to a metal frame that's in the base, and that attaches directly into your vehicle. It's an ease of use feature because it's much easier to install. You just click it in. And it's also an additional safety feature. It helps limit movement side to side and forward and backward. And we know that limiting movement during a crash can help improve outcomes. So since lower anchors have weight limits and we have rigid lower anchors, we also, in our recommended installation, we say use the vehicle seatbelt as well so that you don't have to remove the lower anchors at any point. Now, what I do want to say here is that some vehicles do not allow the use of lower anchors and the vehicle seatbelt together. They will specifically say, you may not do this. And I think that a lot of caregivers don't realize that there's a child passenger safety section in your vehicle manual. Every single one has one. I've read almost 100 vehicle manuals. They're all there. And it has a lot of great information about how to properly install a car seat in your vehicle.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a wonderful call out anyways, right? Whatever car seat you happen to be using, you need to understand how that seat is going to work with your vehicle specifically. And all vehicles are going to be just a little bit different. So very important to read that manual to understand how it's going to work with your car. And actually that dovetails beautifully into my next question, which is talk to me a little bit about how the seat fits into the vehicle. So I have a Toyota Sequoia, which is a very large car, which gives me a fair amount of room in the back seat to install. However, I am also tall. I'm 6'4". So I end up backing the seat up a fair amount. Now, I am usually, and I'm very happy that I'm asking a CPST this question, I am usually extremely hesitant to even touch the car seat with my seat. So sometimes I feel like I'm crunched up a little bit further than I would like to be. Am I correct in that the 2 seats should never touch?
So that's a great question. And as always, there's no one answer. So some vehicles in their manuals will say if a front passenger seat, the driver of the passenger seat is touching that rear facing car seat, that you have to either move the car seat to a different location in the vehicle or move up that front seat so that they're not touching. Some will say nothing at all, in which case you assume that a gentle touch would be okay, as long as your car seat also says that that's okay, because some require a gap. It really depends on your combination of your vehicle and your car seat. But yeah, it's not a hard and fast rule. I wish that there were more hard and fast rules, but a lot of car seating is nuance in gray areas.
Got it. But that is good to know anyways, though, right? It's not necessarily that these 2 touching is going to totally invalidate all of the safety features of the car seat necessarily, but you just need to, again, specifically look for your vehicle and your car seat.
The vehicles, often the reason that they're saying that they don't want that touching, if they say that in their manual, is because there can be sensors in those front driver and passenger seat that affect how and when the airbags are deployed. So if you have something putting extra pressure on that front vehicle seat, it may cause the airbag to not deploy the right way for the person that's sitting in that seat. So that's often why they say don't do that, if they say don't do that.
Final question about the car and the positioning in the car. Where is your favorite spot? Behind the driver, behind the passenger? What would be your ideal installation spot in the vehicle?
So the best place to install your car seat is where you get the best installation. I hear from a lot of caregivers that say, I've heard that the middle is the safest, and that's where I want to put the car seat. And I always say, okay, that's fine. We can do it there. It is, I guess, technically the point that's furthest from any potential point of impact. However, middle seats are often really tough to get a good installation. You know how middle seats are. They're getting smaller and narrower by the vehicle body model style. And sometimes they have that little hump like on the vehicle seat.
Mine does.
Yep, which makes it hard. Sometimes the seat belts overlap or they're in the way. You can't put anybody there. It can be tough to get a good installation in a middle seat. So I always offer that, yeah, we can try it. And if we get a good install there, that's great. Let's use it as long as it works for you guys. But if we don't, it's not a safety risk to install your car seat on one of the outboard seats by the windows. Another thing that I wanted to mention about the middle seat is, and I think this is a mistake that I made when I had my first, before I was attacked, is that latch borrowing that sometimes folks will do in the middle seat. So they'll put their infant seat base right in the middle there, and then they'll take a latch connector and put it into the kind of the outboard seat latch on either side, because they don't have latch in the middle. Most vehicles don't have that. And then they'll be like, okay, this is fine, this is what I'm doing. Except that both your vehicle and your car seat have to allow that latch borrowing in order to do that safely. And there are plenty of both vehicles and car seats that say you may not do that. So you really have to make sure that you're double checking on all of that. And again, a CPST is happy to help you. We have a whole book called the Latch Manual that will tell us all of those things right away without even having to dig through your manuals. So we're happy to help you with that. But that's just another vote for the vehicle seatbelt as well, because if you are really set on installing in the middle seat and you get a good installation there, use that vehicle seatbelt and you won't have to worry about the latch borrowing.
Yeah. I love this, Brittany. I am learning a ton, but I'm also learning there is an incredible amount of nuance here, right? And all of this is just telling me, is just screaming at me, have someone that knows what they're doing look at your car seat. It's going to take a couple minutes of your time, and the peace of mind on top of the additional safety that you'll be able to enjoy is just worth it. I have just a couple final questions for you. So here's the section on when things get a little tricky. How do you think about installs in travel scenarios? So maybe that is, I'm getting in a rental car, I'm getting in an Uber, something like that. If you're on the move, how does that change the baby safety scenario?
I often hear, I'll just rent a car seat at my car rental place. They have them. So I looked into that actually for my own information, and found that most car rental places are only providing car seats that harness forward facing up to 40 pounds. So if you have an older toddler, that car seat that they provide might not even fit them. And at that point, they'll probably hand you a booster seat and say, here you go. And your 3-year-old is definitely not going to be ready for a booster seat. So my advice is always don't rent a car seat from a car rental place.
Right.
They're typically not maintained very well.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is you also don't have any idea what that car seat has been through, etc.
That's right.
Yeah.
Has it crashed? Has it been cleaned correctly? Has it been puked on by somebody? We don't really know. So don't chance it. And also, you won't know how to install it, right? So either bring that car seat on the plane or check it through to your destination in a nice padded box or bag, so that you have a car seat you know how to use and you know it fits your kid when you get to your destination.
Okay, 2 final questions for you. First one, what is the biggest myth about car seats that you wish you could erase forever? I like this one.
That's a really good one. I wish that I could erase the persistent myth that you can drive up to any fire station or police station and get your car seat checked. I wish that were actually true, but unfortunately it is not. So some fire stations and police stations may have a CPST on staff. That might be something that they offer, but many of them don't. And so what you might get if you just show up is a very well-meaning firefighter or police officer who might help you install your car seat, but they might also actually not really know what they're doing. So that's something that I wish that people could delete from their brains. So if you are thinking about swinging by your local station, call ahead and ask if they have a CPST on staff. If they don't, they may be able to direct you toward resources of a local technician that they know. They might get this kind of call all the time, and they might have contact information. Or Google Safe Kids Find a Tech and use that online portal at safekids.org to find a local technician near you.
Love that. Safe Kids Find a Tech. We will definitely have a link to that below. That's great advice. And my final question for you is, if parents that are watching this only remember one thing from this conversation, what do you think it should be?
Oh, Mark, I think you know what I'm going to say.
Let's hear it.
Go get a seat check from a CPST. That is my one best piece of advice, because even if you don't remember anything that I said from this, which that's reasonable, I said a lot, that CPST can help you, and they can help you directly one-on-one figure out what's going to be the best and safest installation for your family in your vehicle with your child. So get that personalized help. We're just car seat nerds that want to help. We are not going to judge you. We do not care what your car looks like. We don't care if there's goldfish in your car seat. We don't care if your car seat arrives in the box in your trunk. I have done those installations, right? I have helped families like that. And by the end, they know exactly what they're doing and they feel confident. So get the help you need, get the help you deserve.
That is awesome. And that is a very eye-opening stat that you shared with us earlier. It is with current data, the car seat installations that we are seeing up to 70% are done incorrectly. Yes. That in and of itself is plenty of evidence that you should go and get your car seat checked by a CPST. Britney, this was really helpful. Thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you out there for a Child Passenger Safety Week.
Yes, absolutely. I'll be there doing seat checks.
So, what did we learn? Number 1, don't rush the milestones. Rear facing longer is safer. Number 2, get a seat check. Most parents don't, and that's how mistakes slip through. Number 3, harness tight, chest clip at armpit level. If you can remember these 3 things, you're already ahead of 80% of parents. The safest seat is not the fanciest one. It's the one you use correctly every single time. No gimmicks, no shortcuts. If you've got car seat questions, drop them in the comments below. I'll tackle them or drag another expert in. And if you want to see how companies like BabyArk are trying to rethink car seat safety with technology, check out our full review linked in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Adios.